get onto that, though, a big game for West Ham this weekend. They play Arsenal, who look like they're back in very good form. West Ham themselves with an excellent win Monday night against Newcastle. How confident are you going up against this Arsenal team right now, Lawless?
Yeah, it's hard to be confident, obviously, because, listen, I don't get carried away. That's not me. I know some people get carried away, but not me. So I have to temper my expectations because it is one game. So I have to see more from this team for me to have faith. So yeah, it's going to be very tough. It is going to be very tough. This Arsenal team are looking like they're back to hitting their stride. They've got all their players back. So yeah, it's going to be about how Lopetegui sets us up. But what I will say is, if he sticks with that team, players in their best position, we have an excellent chance of causing an upset. You know, and I don't really give us a win, but I think a draw we'll get to it, is definitely possible. You know, we're missing Kudus still, which is a big loss. But
last game before he's back.
Yes, last game before he's banned. So we are missing Kudus, which is a big loss. You know, one of our best players. But the other players are looking fit and sharp. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who I mentioned earlier, who I think needs to get his props, praise. He was told that he's crap going forward. He's non-existent. Scored an excellent goal and locked up Isak on the weekend along with the centre back. So, yeah, man. Listen, I'm going into it open-minded. Do you know what I mean? No expectations. I'm just going to enjoy it. And whatever will be.
What it is for me, Terry. Obviously, look, Arsenal looking very good. This is the type of Arsenal that you don't want to face right now. You know what I mean? In terms of the attack, they're looking really fluid. They're playing a lot of little triangles in and around the box. The midfield, you know, Partey right now, like I said, has been their best midfielder this season. In defense, Timber and Calafiori have been solid as well. Timber, very, very good. I like Timber. I've always said this, right? But at the same time, what I saw from West Ham against Newcastle is the West Ham that I was expecting to see this season. You know, on and off the ball, you were very good, bro. You know, I was seeing you lot attacking quite well, but defensively, it reminded me of what you were doing with Moyes. And you're waiting for your moment to just sort of buy your time. Yes, Newcastle had some good chances in the game to win. Lola's going to talk about clear-cut chances. Isak had some good chances to score in that game, but they didn't, right? The main difference with West Ham is that you were very clinical, right? And when you were scoring those goals, it felt like your team was starting to get a little bit more confidence. I was seeing you lot moving the ball around with some patterns, and I'm like, yo, where have I seen this all season? I haven't seen this from Lopetegui, this style of play where...
Dominated possession in their half, by the way. We dominated possession in their half. We dominated possession in their half. Let's add that in.
Yeah.
They had some real clear-cut opportunities. That don't matter, does it, Lawless?
Well, that's what you guys were saying. That's what I'm speaking against. This idea of
so you're learning from me. There we go. There's hope after all. Continue.
Honestly, Terry, like how I kind of look at this game, if Arsenal score first, I think West Ham's heads will probably drop. That stadium as well, usually it's never really loud, man. Like you can silence that crowd real quick. It's not like the stadium in Upton Park, Lawless. But at the same time, if West Ham score first, that's when I think, you know, defensively they could potentially hold out for potentially a draw. I would say I don't see West Ham winning this game. If you do, that's going to be really impressive because Arsenal, like I said right now, they're playing really well. But just make sure you don't concede first. Otherwise, I think Arsenal will just blitz you if they score first.
I want to ask a question to the two Man United fans. So first of all, because we look at Arsenal, and yeah, they are looking good. However, obviously, Forest seem to be on the downturn. They lost to Newcastle the week before the international break, and then they beat a Sporting team that didn't have Amorim. Do you think that Arsenal win that game in the fashion that they do, or win that game at all if Amorim is still the manager?
Yeah, bro.
Or do you think that was part of a side effect of Amorim leaving, and that's why they made so?
I don't know if I can talk about that because that's hindsight. But my opinion is one.
It's not really hindsight, is it?
It is, because you're asking what would have happened if Amorim was there, and I don't.
Yeah, because was he the factor? Is he a fact? It's not high. It's like saying if a team loses their best player.
No, because if I say they would have won, so if I say they would have won and if Amorim was there, that's me. That's hindsight. I can't say that. However, when you lose, what was it, 5-1? I don't think one manager. Obviously, I don't know why I said one manager, like they have multiple. I don't think a manager change is the difference between you winning a game and losing 5-1. Let's be honest.
So
Because like
Amorim's just-
most of these managers and
City should
the
have
way
scored
that
three.
Amorim looks,
Sorry.
I was gonna say, outside of maybe like him motivating them mid-game, let's say I forgot what was the score at halftime. Was it 2-1 maybe? If it
3-1,
was
I think.
close and they go into
3-1.
halftime and he's a good speaker, which we know he is, he
3-0.
motivates them. What did it end at 5-1 or 5-0?
It was 3-0 at halftime, 5-1 at full time.
Oh shit. Okay, never mind. So my point is probably little things like this where he goes into halftime and pumps up his team a little bit could make the score different. But I'm not gonna dismiss what Arsenal did because of the manager not being there. He still drilled them for 4 years to be a very good team. So Emery not being there doesn't mean that they forgot how to play football, how to play together. There's no excuse to conceding the amount of goals that you did just because the manager left. So that's an excuse to me. I gotta give Arsenal praise because the last 2 games they look like the Arsenal that me and Dunn had been saying looks like it's done and buried and dusted because they've been playing a lot more defensive. It looks like Odegaard actually was what they really need because he comes back into this team and this team is moving the ball well. They're looking fluid again. They're creating an abundance of chances and they have 8 goals in 2 games. When you score 8 goals in 2 games, that is more praise for you because you've been playing well. And these are not 2 scrub teams. That's Norwich, who've been not Norwich, Forest, sorry, that have been in good form this season, and Sporting Lisbon that were ranked, I think, 3rd in the Champions League league table until they faced Arsenal. So no, they've been playing very well. Arteta adjusted a little bit, and they're seen on the pitch.
Can I say as well? Look, I understand your point. I think Arsenal definitely had the capability of beating Ruben Amorim's Sporting. Would it have been 5-1? Maybe not. I love the fact that Ruben Sporting beat City the way they did, but let us not pretend that City should have been 3-0 up by the half time in that game. They missed some massive chances. However, Arsenal were very, very clinical. And I would say this. I think what you're doing there is looking for a negative against Arsenal because the hindsight's crazy. Last weekend, in the build-up to the Forest game, the amount of rivals that were saying, I mean, you guys said it yourselves, and I remember asking you all directly on this show a week ago. You were talking about how hard it's going to be and how good Nottingham Forest are and how difficult a game this was going to be. And I said, so if they do end up like winning 3-0, we're all going to sit here then and say, wow, that was a really good victory against a really good team. And Don, to be fair, said it, and I remember you nodding, Lawless. You went, yep, no, if they do that, that would be a very, very good win. So they've done
it. I said that. I said it would be an impressive win.
So you guys all agreed. You guys all agreed.
Lawless disagreed. It would be an impressive win, and I said it would be.
Okay, yeah, on that side. So you said that. The viewers, amount of people predicting that Arsenal might not get a win. It'd be really hard. The same again in the Sporting game. I was doing the show live on Tuesday, the Straight Facts with Potsy and LB. Oh, tough game. Not unbeaten in this. Arsenal might find it hard, this, hard, that. They score 8 goals in the 2 games, and suddenly the narrative is, do you actually think Nottingham Forest are on a decline? And now that Ruben ain't there, Sporting aren't very good. I think that's moving I think that's trying to shut the door after the whole horse has already bolted, in my opinion.
These are important talking points. These are important things. You can't just ignore these points. Like the reason why I said it wouldn't be an impressive win if they beat Forest, because Newcastle just put 3 past them at home. But this
Arsenal, but that's results-based analysis. That I think you're going too deep in it. Because at the same time, Newcastle just beat them. Okay, as you've said, but you just beat Newcastle. That doesn't mean you're better than Nottingham Forest at the moment.
I'm not saying it means they're better,
I understand that. But at the same time, this Arsenal team, when they played Shakhtar Donetsk at home, they won 1-0 but looked awful. And Shakhtar Donetsk, in my opinion, are not as good as Sporting Lisbon, even without Ruben Amorim. And I just feel that every time this happens to Arsenal a lot, same as you did to Man United earlier, every time there's something positive, the default reaction of rivals, and I get it, it's what tribalism does.
Why have we got to have one-sided analysis? But
it's not. You're moving the goalposts before the game. It is because before the game started, the prediction wasn't. I think Forest. I'm talking generally here, not just you. People a week ago weren't saying Sporting without Ruben are now easy to beat. They won 6-0 at the weekend, by the way. And everyone went, they won. But the narrative was the narrative was Sporting are really hard, and Forest is going to be a massive test. And I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal drop points. They win both games comfortably, and we now need to revisit those teams, and maybe they weren't as good as we said they were. I think you were being disingenuous in the first place.
That Arsenal get no credit. I'm not saying that. But when I'm going into this game and I'm saying, oh, are Arsenal back or are Arsenal going to be this dominant team? I'm saying that there's still these points that we have to look at before we can make a full conclusion. And
that's a separate point. That's a separate point. If you're asking the question if Arsenal are back, that's a separate point, right? And I
was bringing the points up for my prediction into the West Ham game. So I'm saying, yes, Arsenal are looking good. However, we have to take these things into consideration. Someone made an excellent point in the chat about them losing Amorim, and it's not just they're well drilled. It is a psychological aspect as well. You lose your manager. We've interviewed football players that have said just by them knowing that their manager is leaving at the end of the season, how much it has affected them knowing this guy's not.
I understand that. The only point I'm making, Lawless, and that wasn't any different before the game. It's fine to question it the way you have done. What I'm throwing back as an argument is, where is this energy before games? Where is the prediction of, I think Arsenal, what I didn't see from everyone who hates Arsenal was, I think Arsenal are going to win by 3, 4, 5 goals. Why? Because I think these players are going to have a drop-off now Ruben's gone. Before they played Nottingham Forest, nobody was saying who hates Arsenal. No, but that's the question. So we shouldn't be debating whether it's right or wrong. You should be asking the people in the comments that are now agreeing with you, why didn't you say this a week ago? Your analysis is coming after the fact and not before it. So at the very least, that's how bad they were on the day. If you feel like Forest were already on the decline, you should have said it before the game.
I made the point that they just lost 3-1 to Newcastle. I made that point. So let's not say I didn't.
Again, I'm not talking. What have I said though? I'm not addressing you directly. I'm talking here about the consensus, and the consensus for Arsenal before their last 2 games is they were going to be tough, difficult, and their fans shouldn't get carried away. They could drop points. That was the general consensus. And I'm not talking about outside the Football Terrace community. I'm talking about in our live chat, the audience that are watching now. That was a general consensus. What you can't do after the fact is turn around and go, they played easy teams though, because that wasn't your prediction. Unless you admit first, I was wrong. They're nowhere near as good as I thought. I actually think they're bad teams. You've got to admit your own faults before you move the goalposts. Otherwise, it is intellectually dishonest conversations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And for me, I'm glad. Lawless, I'm glad. Go on, land your point, bro.
I'll just quickly say, I'll say it super quick. I think it's intellectually dishonest to say that what they've beat is the same Forest, that Forest are this top 4 team, because that's where they were at the time.
Who said that? So who said that?
4 team. That's the way it was being presented.
By whom? No, by whom? Sorry, Don. By whom?
In this conversation last week, when you was talking about the team that they're facing, we was painting up Forest to be, because of where they were in the table, which I think is a false position in terms of they're not going to be there very long.
I get that.
So, but we painted it up as they're beating a team of that caliber because that's where they were at the time. Even though, like I said, they're just. So I think that's special.
Personally, I said the game, but Arsenal played very well. I can't lie. Arsenal played very well, but listen, Lawless, I'm
not saying, not denying.
I'm glad that you lot beat Newcastle, because I didn't want to see West Ham going into this game low on confidence, going away from the Park without a W. Because end of the day, like I've said, if you score first against Arsenal, it will be very, very interesting to see how they come and attack you lot, right? Because we've like you said, for me. Okay, cool. Arteta's taking off the handbrake. They're playing better at the minute. But like you're saying, you still need to see more evidence before you can say, okay, Arsenal are now back or Arsenal have now turned the corner. And I think that's fair enough, Lawless, to say.
I think that's fair.
Most of the season, Terry, we've seen Arsenal have a handbrake up. Yes, you can argue it's because Odegaard's not there. But at the same time, some of the lineups have been negative. The in-game management has been negative. You know what I mean? So it's a fair point. It's a fair point. It's interesting. It's going to be an interesting.
Someone has to look at the other side. Otherwise, it will just be Arsenal.
I know. And listen, and it's not about that. It's about being honest here. And Twisted Bubba says this right. He says, Terry, you're always wise. Not me. He's talking generally. You're always wiser after the event. So hype, and you are. But it's also about addressing what you said in that moment. And what I don't like, and maybe it's because I'm older and I'm grumpier. What I'm starting to get very bored of when it comes to football analysis is when I predicted that we would score 3 or 4 goals against Ipswich, I was wrong. The first thing I addressed on my match reaction is I got that element wrong. What I thought would happen is we would score early. I then thought that Ipswich might fade a little bit.
You did,
and we
early.
would. I know. I thought they would fade. Yeah. I thought we'd score early, like we did, and I thought they might then take a little bit of a backseat. Bloody hell, United look good, and we'd have a bit more of a new manager bounce, and we'd score another goal early, and then we'd see the game through. It didn't go the way I thought. But so when I analyze the game afterwards, the first thing I do is address what I got wrong, and then I break down what I actually saw. Because I'm trying my best, and not everybody likes what I do, and that's fair enough. But I believe in addressing what you've predicted or what you've said, saying, wow. So if somebody said last week, Forest are an amazing team, Arsenal are going to struggle. If the analysis is, you know what? Forest are nowhere near as good as I thought. I got that completely wrong. Arsenal look good, I agree. But I think a lot of that was to do with Forest maybe punching above their weight for a few weeks, and I've got to hold my hands up to that. Then I can accept your opinion. When it goes from one to the other with no kind of addressing of your mistake, I find it very hard to engage with anybody like that, because all you're looking for is a way. You're just looking for a negative to beat another club over the head with. And I just find that, and I'm not talking about none of you on the panel, that for me is what we did in primary school. That's primary school conversations. And I just want to have an adult conversation about these things as best as we can.
It's Twitter talk. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really Twitter talk, because we spent about 20 minutes, instead of talking about the game, we're talking about, was it because they played lesser opponents, or were they actually good? Oh, but Amarim left.
But it's talking points. It's not about that. It's just they're talking points with this. So there are factors that affect every game that we have to talk about. So losing the manager is going to be a factor.
Let's get some more.
Can we not talk about that?
Let's get to some of these super chats.